Hello, my name is Benjamin Joles. The topic that my group and I decided to cover is autonomous cars. This is our homepage, and here we just have a little blurb basically saying we're not necessarily trying to convince you whether they are good or not. We're just trying to provide information so you can make that decision for yourself. And then we have a little clip here from a news show just kind of going over some of the basics of self-driving cars and like having a couple of people ride in them just to see what they're able to do. This is our team. The four of us created the website. You can click on any of our pictures here, and it will link to the respective page that we made. Sarah covered the pros and cons of autonomous cars. So again, the good things and the bad things about them. And then she linked a TED Talk here, also covering the same thing. And then we have regulation and safety that was done by Ethan. He goes over some of the safety regulations in here. Right here, he covers the like levels of actual automation in the cars because there are different levels. Some are able to do everything. Some are able to do a few things. So, it just goes over the different levels. And then Emily covered the who's using them, who's making them. So, which companies are producing or trying to produce autonomous cars, self-driving cars, and then which people are, actually buying them, like which countries are they uh, more frequently purchased in, who in those countries are buying them. And then I covered the history and a little bit of how they work. Um, Basically, the most agreed upon beginning of self-driving cars that I could find is the Futurama exhibit at the 1939 World's Fair. This was GM, General Motors exhibit, and it was designed by Norman Bell Geddes, which I hope I'm pronouncing correctly. And basically, kind of like this picture right there, and then also a little bit like in the video, he created this miniature town, including highways and roads and everything. And these little cars there are propelled and pulled along by magnetism, with like radio signals kind of shooting in and actually telling the cars like when to move, when to stop, and all that stuff. And then that was kind of expanded upon eventually. RCA Labs created another miniature system similar to that. Um, they like laid out wires in the floor, and that kind of helped guide the cars along the path that they wanted them to go. And eventually, they actually got to make a full-size version of that. They combined with the state of Nebraska, used a public highway, and they buried like little sensors along the road so they could sense what the vehicle was doing, like whether or not it was moving, the speed that it was moving, and so it could then use the radio signals to tell it to slow down, tell it to go faster, and stuff like that. And while theoretically they could have continued working on technology like that, where using like more of the technology in the road that would then work with the cars, it was expensive, and the amount of like infrastructure and agreement necessary from like all the states to get that to work was just not really possible, unfortunately. So they made their way onto using cameras, as which is still what we use today. And that actually began, or one of the first uses of that wasn't even necessarily for a passenger vehicle. It was actually for a cart to land on the moon. So they were trying to figure out how to land a vehicle of any kind on the moon, and they realized that using cameras would help them achieve that, so they could like see the terrain and like transmit the pictures back to the they would transmit the pictures and the info back to a computer, which would then kind of be able to help it land and decide what to do. And then 16 years after that, the University of Scuba, I hope I'm pronouncing that right, um, actually managed to test what was considered the world's first self-driving passenger vehicle, again using similar camera technology. And then a lot of small advancements happened in between that time and the like early to mid 2000s, when the DARPA, the Defense Advanced Research Projects Agency, created a competition and offered a lot of money to any company that could manage to create an autonomous car that could meet certain requirements. They had to drive a certain distance, quite a ways in the desert, uh, and they also had to traverse more like suburban areas. And obviously, you wouldn't want to test that in an area where people are, so they would use abandoned military facilities and areas like that to test that. 2004 was the first year, and nobody won. But then in 2005, Stanford actually won first place in a $2 million prize, basically using things that had been being worked on for the past several decades. But with the main technology being the cameras, watching, seeing what the car sees, and then that info being transmitted back to a computer, and the computer would then use software to tell the car what to do, like what to avoid, when to turn, when to slow down, anything like that. And that leads us to today, where really things haven't changed that much. We are still using the cameras and sensors and software. One of the, I guess, one of the main changes is artificial intelligence and like machine learning. So Tesla specifically, but some other companies as well, they have all the cameras taking in the info, seeing like the stop signs, seeing like the dots on the side of the road, solid lines, dash lines, all that stuff. And it just immediately knows as soon as the computer sees that, what it needs to do to properly, continue driving. They're even able to tell a difference between like bicycle and a motorcycle, or a pedestrian and a tree, which seems obvious, obvious enough to us as humans, but to get a computer to consistently do that without fail is very important if you want to have a reliable self-driving car. And they also create like this basically small internalized map, because they have the cameras on like all sides of the car. So not only are they looking in front, but they're looking to the sides and looking back. And so like repeatedly, like multiple times a minute or in a second even, they're updating the map so they know what all their surroundings are, and they know exactly what to do because of what they're seeing. With that technology, Tesla specifically, with their autopilot function, you can be completely hands-free on the highway, sometimes in suburban areas, but mostly just the highway. There have yet to be any fully 100% autonomous cars created yet, but they are definitely working hard on that, and I'm sure once that finally comes to fruition, we will hear about that immediately, and I'm sure everybody will be clamoring to get their hands on a car like that. Here at the bottom of my page, I actually link over to Emily's page, since she then kind of carries on talking about who's using them or who's making them and stuff like that. Um, just a couple of pictures I have on my page. This is just kind of like a rudimentary what the computer is kind of seeing. Like it sees the person on the bike right there, it sees the pedestrian walking, it sees the stationary car, stationary flagpole, and it's kind of tracking its route right there. This is actually a pretty neat video. It is the DARPA challenge from 2005, so the one that Stanford ended up winning. It's a pretty neat thing to watch. And then over here, I have all of my references for all the where I got the info and my references for the pictures and the videos. And then the last page on our website is the main references page, which includes everybody's references. Thank you for your time, and thank you for listening to my presentation.